18 Brumaire of revolutionary behavior, where Marx says that you learn a foreign language so well that when you produce in it, you forget the language that is rooted in you. That's the goal, right? That's deep language learning. I'm not using it metaphorically. So, in order to make solutions for other people, unless you understand this kind of stuff, because other people are human beings, they may not be honorary males, that's why I did the taxonomy. You have to really be, and not everybody needs to do it, as I was saying. It's not something for which you would fall to Doctors Without Borders. But if some people do not realize that we cannot all be on the bandwagon of saying to the grant givers, look how I'm globalizing the curriculum. Don't you think I suffer every day because I can't say this to the grant givers? And I do say this in a kind of awful way. But we have to accept that this is a woman's work of keeping the house going while Dad is writing the books and globalizing. You see, that's what I was trying to say. Remember, he could not reach R, but Mrs. Ramsey was knitting away. But anyway, so that's what I was saying. I'm sorry, my answers are always long. I'll try to be brief.
I absolutely enjoyed your paper. I thought that was completely wonderful, Gayatri. And I'd like to go back to the family, if you don't mind, and to reproductive heteronormativity. I wonder if you could just say a little bit more about that in relation to what seemed implicit in your talk, which you started off with and ended up with, which is you being the honorary man, yet again, despite how many years of feminism. And so what I'm wondering is that, is it the case that what one has also got to acknowledge in the course of what you're discussing, to acknowledge the loss of feminism, the extent to which feminism has been actively undone and eroded. And one of the reasons I would like you to just perhaps consider that in a little bit more detail is because here teaching at Goldsmiths, where we have students who are open to, I think, almost everything. Nevertheless, when I teach the family, along the lines of what Michelle Barrett and Mary McIntosh wrote 30 years ago, the antisocial family, when I talk about radical alternatives to the family, when I even talk about the idea of becoming a single parent by yourself, a kind of sense of real shock hits the room. And so I just wondered if you could say a little bit more about that fantastic tradition within feminism, in many ways starting with Gail Rubin as well, the traffic in women, of the critique of familial and reproductive heteronormativity.
Okay, and let me see if I can, this is hard, it's a hard question, because I must be both your ally and your critic, see? So, but that's not you, that's how we work together. So, yes, I would, feminism as the named movement, and Gail Rubin is one of my heroes, as you well know. I have, from the start, put her in with discussions of Deleuze and all that stuff. So, yes, I think we must not give up the critique of the abuse of the heteronormative family structure, which has led to a great deal of oppression. What I was talking about, however, is bigger than the struggles that we are talking about. That's why I said that it's not just those who actively struggle within the feminist movement who are in the double bind with reproductive heteronormativity. Everyone is in a double bind with reproductive heteronormativity. So, in a sense, I think this is also the difference between agency and subjectship that I was talking about. There's nobody here from the radical philosophy thing. Is there anyone? Ah, good, at least one. So the difference, one makes a great deal of difference. I'm talking to you. The difference between agency and subjectship that I was talking about, in terms of being an agent, you know that you are basing yourself you're grounding yourself in a mistake about human beings. Because we all know, since we live and die, that we are unable to put everything in. Reich wrote a book trending subject and say, this is me. But on the other hand, if you don't do so in the House of Agency, you cannot in fact change laws, you cannot in fact engage in the kinds of struggles that we did that didn't necessarily succeed, as you said. So that I am there, and I will march with the movement, and I will even write positively about them. But when it comes to talking about the mysterious outlines of the human subject, then I said more than human, didn't I? Then I will say that this reproductive heteronormativity is something that we reject because it binds us. Even the most conservative among us reject it in various kinds of ways. I have fun talking about that in Vienna or places. We reject it. We reject it as it binds us, but we reject it from various, we at the same time must accept it. As I said, if we love our mothers, if we love our children, if we hate our mothers, we are in a double bind. Because why is it specifically this mother that I'm hating? So, all of this stuff. Therefore, I would agree with you and say that we also have to see this as not something that we can, by criticizing, undo. It is that other model of women's work, persistent and continuing, because it will not go away. And so, to an extent, it gives more emphasis to the struggles that you and I shared in the earlier decades. And Angela is younger than I am, so, but on the other hand, we also overlap. Anyway, so this is a lame kind of answer, but it is an answer, as honest as I can be.
Kind of getting our orientation.
I was not pessimistic as I was training my teachers. I think this honorary maid thing is not just us wearing mortarboards or choosing to wear the veil. Antigone was an honorary maid. If one wants to look at the way in which our Gandhi and Maitre and Khanabatan and so on always push forward when people say, how about the Vedic Dasi? So, I'm talking a kind of, if you've read these published things, then it's not cryptic conversation, these are all published things. But at any rate, not only by me, but at any rate, the honorary maid thing cannot be identified with just the gains of the feminist movement. Of course, why cautious? Why cautious? I think we should be incautiously optimistic. The problem that I always look at is that every self-declared rupture is also a repetition. So that to an extent, let this be declared by others, as it were. It seems to me that the patterns of co-optation, the rules by which we measure our gains, because I'm not at all unhappy about the fact that these things can happen. I think that's wonderful. But on the other hand, some of us must also be engaged in not thinking that that's an end. And so your adjective cautious there, I will welcome, but the optimism, I think, should not necessarily be cautious. I think this stuff, I was talking about that at, is there anybody here who went to the John went to Whitechapel? There we go. Anybody else? No. Oh yes, you. I saw you. Okay. I was talking, see, you didn't put up your hand, but I saw you. But that whole business of, a relationship without relationship between hope and expectation. That slight pessimism